In their minds, those who died were more wicked than anybody else. Are you following me? In their minds, ladies and gentlemen, those who suffered this horrible death were more egregious sinners, and so they got what they deserved. Are you listening to me? When Jesus hears them telling this news to him, he breaks out in a parable because he wants to point out a systematic failure in the lives of the people of God. Now watch this, watch this. In spite of the owner's intentions, and the owner represents God, right? The tree represents the nation of Israel. God is trying to point out that in spite of the fact he planted this tree in a vineyard, this tree has got some fundamental problems. I want you to listen to me. The nation, is what God is saying, has been planted and protected and provided for. They're privileged, but they're not living up to their purpose. The nation has failed to diffuse the wonder of God into the surrounding populace. The nation has failed to be an example of God-likeness, and the nation has failed to inspire others to come to a saving knowledge of the God of heaven. It has not impacted the surrounding community, and it has not returned to God some benefit for the investment of grace and mercy that he expended on the tree's behalf. In other words, the owner has come looking for some fruit from the tree, but he has found none. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is the owner irrational to expect that I plant a tree and I'm gonna get some fruit from it? Am I right? Let me speak to the parents in here. You know that whenever you take care of your kids and you put good clothes on them, right? And you put shoes on their feet, and they got $200 pair of Jordans going to school. Am I right? When report card time comes, you don't want to hear nothing about nothing. Am I right? You looking to see all A's going up and down that report card. Why? Because you're like, listen, little Negro, I put money into you. Am I right? I feed you come on. Am I preaching truth here? Come on, you black folk. You know how we are. You don't want to hear school it. No. You don't pay no bills. You don't pay no mortgage. Am I right? Come on. You expect to get something back. Son, you really can't pay me for what I do for you. So the only payment I get is when I look at that report card. Am I right? And so the owner of the tree says, I planted you, tree, a nation of Israel. I planted you. The only thing I'm expecting is some fruit out of you. But alas, his hopes are halted, his desires are dashed, his expectations are extinguished, and his wishes are washed away. He finds no fruit, no produce, no goods, no return, no product, and no profit. The tree has got some issues. The simplest thing that the tree could have done, the thing that the tree was genetically created to do, it did not do. The natural course of its development, nothing. Nothing worthwhile. Nothing tangible. Nothing substantive, nothing solid, nothing worthy, nothing usable, nothing profitable, nothing worthy of mention. The tree was worthless, hopeless, shameless, helpless, graceless, joyless, and fruitless. But preacher, how did the tree get so jacked up? How did this tree become so worthless? What is the catalyst for the wasteful condition of this tree? How did the tree get so bad? Ladies and gentlemen, if you would just allow me to loosen my tie, I'd like to preach this thing like I really feel it. I have found that this tree has for some time embarked upon the path of do-nothingness that allowed it to spiral into the present condition of worthlessness. In other words, the tree is on a journey to do nothing. And the first stop on this journey of steady decline to the land of no worth is the city of ethnic superiority, with forays into the towns of religious arrogance and spiritual apathy. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, Israel was God's chosen people. They were selected as God's covenant people. They were elected to declare to the world the gospel of salvation. It was through Israel that the Messiah would come, and so that the Jewish nation was entrusted to present the universe its Savior. But rather than being humbled by the privilege, the nation of Israel became haughty and high-minded. They thought that they were more important because God had chosen them to birth his Christ. Rather than realizing the worth of their calling, they began to ascribe value to themselves. They began to take note of themselves, how great they were, how wonderful their heritage, how unique their experience, how privileged their standing, how noteworthy their accomplishments, how rich their religious legacy, how sound their doctrinal positions, how penetrating their influence, how mighty were their kings, how beautiful were their temples. And soon the privilege was no longer to be called by God, the privilege was just being born an Israelite. Rather than talking about having a good relationship with God, they elevated the necessity of being ritually accurate. Right and wrong was no longer about God's sovereign will. It was about whether or not you made the right political connections. Like Samson, the Spirit of God departed from the Israelites, and none of them even knew the difference. The substance of relationship, the indwelling of God's Spirit, was replaced with symbols of pomp and circumstance and empty formalism. You know, I cannot help but see some similarities between Israel then and Christians now. Some of us, ladies and gentlemen, because we've been chosen by God, because we have been elected, because we have been selected, we have become prideful and arrogant. I've watched Christians thumb their noses down at people who don't have Christ, failing to remember that we are one episode away from backsliding ourselves.